Hello. What's up, everybody? Thank you guys for tuning in. I know this was like such a last second thing. I didn't announce it or anything. But I don't know. I was kind of busy today, so this was actually It was easier for me to live stream today than for me to make a full video. So I figured that would be a fun thing to do. Plus, it's been a while since I've done one, and I wanted to do one again. So I felt like as good of reason as any. I don't really have a topic for today, other than just the old school Godzilla Q&A. So that is what we're doing today. What's up, Frank? Thank you guys for tuning in. Saturn Dusk, Godzilla 154. I hope you guys are doing well. Kaiju Artist, Lou, Childish, always good to see you. Good to see everybody. Mr. Metal, Gojima's Prime, thank you guys all for tuning in. And now, let me get to those questions. I saw you guys asking some questions in the chat, so I figured I'd get to those. Yeah, I also cannot wait for whatever Toho and Legendary Pictures bring to the table. I am excited to find out. I think they both got a lot planned, so I'm curious to see where things head. Specifically, I'm curious to see where things head with Toho. I think Legendary's a little more obvious. I think it's a little more clear what their path forward is. They're going to be focusing on television shows and then the movies. I know they're really trying to rush to get this next Godzilla movie out. And then I think Toho is going to be a bit more interesting because I think they're going to be doing a movie, but I have no idea what that will be or what shape that will take. Oh, I'm glad to hear that, Saturn Dusk. I hope that this can help cheer you up. I hope your day's not going too bad. Kaiju Artist, will you ever do a full collection tour? Probably, especially because I'm actually going to be moving rather soon. So this whole background and setup and everything, it's unfortunately going to be gone very soon. So yeah, I probably right before I tear it all down, I'll film a tour of the setup here and show off a bunch of the stuff that I have and talk about all that good stuff. As far as like a full official collection tour, I'm not too sure. Maybe someday, but that's not on my priorities list. Yeah, this is a little earlier. I'm streaming a little earlier than sometimes I do. And I'm not going to be streaming for too long, maybe a little over an hour, if that. My notifications on YouTube, I don't know if they're not being sent out, or maybe just there's not as much interest in the stuff I've been posting lately, because my stuff's not been getting as much traction as it used to. That very well could just be because I've been focusing on more event content rather than news and stuff like that. And it's nice to see everybody. Hello to all of you guys. Nice to see Batman's in the chat. You ordered a knockoff header off of AliExpress for $3. You'll have to let me know how that turns out, Blue. That could be very interesting. My brother got me a mystery pack of kaiju figures from one of those types of sites. I don't think it was AliExpress. It was some weird site, and it came with a bunch of like mini figures, random figures, but then also like a Bandai for some. I think it's a Bandai Gamera. So that was quite interesting. Can you give us like a top 10 of your figures? Ooh, top 10. Well, it's probably a lot of the ones that I have like nostalgic connections to. So I have a Trendmasters Godzilla, that's top of my list. That's been my go-to Godzilla since I was a little kid. Then I've got like some signed Movie Monster series Godzillas. I've got like a signed Ghidorah 2001 that I got signed by all of the King of the Monsters mocap actors. I've got a Godzilla store exclusive Mecha Godzilla 74 up there. I've got obviously my theater exclusive -1, which I picked up in Japan. That one is a huge one for me. The theater exclusives, it turns out, as I found out last night, I did a collab with some Godzilla people. Some friends that I'm excited for you guys to see the collab. It was a lot of fun, and I'm very grateful to have been invited to do that. That was a lot of fun. Some fellow Godzilla content creators. I learned that I actually have a Bandai Movie Monster series theater exclusive version Godzilla 2002. That's definitely one of the big ones on my one of the big ones I'm very proud of having, because it's been one of the ones I've had since I was a kid, and I've had a lot of fun with that as a kid. And then other than that, like, I really enjoyed the light, sound, and music Godzilla 1989 from SH. And I don't know how many figures I've said, so I'm gonna pretend I said 10. I don't know. I'm not sure how many I said. Off topic, but I've been watching trilogy. Well, I'm glad, Frank. I'm glad you're enjoying the Despicable Me movies. Yes, we're taking it back to 2016, 54. Godzilla 93, yeah, I might have been, but I wasn't that wrong about the Godzilla X Kong box office. What did I say? That it'd do around GVK is what I predicted, and it did better than GVK, but you'd hope it would. You sure hope it would. It's got Godzilla and Kong together. That thing should have been the highest grossing movie of the Monsterverse. If it wasn't, that means the Monsterverse is failing as a cinematic universe. You know, when you have a crossover movie, that's going to need to be a bigger box office. So I'm glad that the movie did very well. That's a very good thing. We like to see Godzilla movies do very well at the box office. That's always a good thing, and will always keep the franchise healthy and going. So the more that people go see these movies, the more movies we can get, which is the fun part. And I'm glad to see that the Monsterverse is still doing so healthy, especially with the TV shows. That's really exciting, I think. I think the TV shows is such a new and exciting opportunity for the Monsterverse, and just for Godzilla in general. I really loved Singular Point. I thought that Monarch Legacy of Monsters was very good, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. Nice, Matt. That is, I think I know exactly what Godzilla collection you're talking about. That was a good one. That was the one that I grew up on, and I particularly love the special features on that one. The commentaries are fantastic. Yes, I am moving. I'm actually moving in just a couple weeks. So yeah, this whole setup and everything, it's gonna go away. That's gonna be interesting to see. I'm gonna have to try and reconsolidate. My room is gonna become my office again. Right now, my room that I used to record in, it still exists, and actually it's looking very good these days. I've got a brand new setup in there, and it looks really nice. That room and then my office are gonna have to recombine, so that's gonna be interesting to see if I can try and mesh everything back together. I agree. I completely agree, Godzilla 93. I would love to see Toho do more kaiju movies that are not just Godzilla. I would love to see Toho do some solo Mothra movies. I really badly want a new Rodan movie. I think that would be wonderful. It's been way too long since Rodan had a solo movie. I would love to see that. And then obviously I would love to see them explore other kaiju, like the Gargantuas, who are highly underrated and need to come back. Toho, bring the Gargantuas back. What are you doing? That's what we need. Can we call the moving process Boxingzilla? Yeah, sure. I'm gonna have to box up all of these. My closet back here, that is filled to the brim with all of the figure boxes, because I knew this day was inevitable. So all of my figure packaging is back there, and so I'm gonna have to rebox up all of it and put it all away. Oh, I don't know, Atomic. I don't know who the antagonist for the Gemstone short would be. I would guess Mecha Godzilla, because it's of course the anniversary of Godzilla vs. Mecha Godzilla. So I would guess Mecha Godzilla. I hope they're doing one. I actually don't know if they're gonna do one. Mario, the Hey Toho thing is coming out tomorrow. and I'm very curious to see what you guys think of it. I really won't say much more than that. I'm really curious to hear what you guys think of it. I'm excited to see the reactions to it. I actually had very little to do with that video. Oops, I kicked my microphone. I see Hiroki-san's in the chat. Hello, Miyajima-san. I hope I get to see you in just a few weeks. Where did your comment go? I saw your profile picture, but where did it go? Oh, there you are. He says, hello. Hi. For anybody watching here, I'll pull it up. Where? Here we go. Hiroki-san is watching, or at least commented. Hiroki-san is from Toho, from the Godzilla store. He made this video. I just linked it in the chat. It's this really cool, like, documentary style dive into the world of Japanese model making. It's a very interesting watch, and I highly recommend it. Goji, I personally would rather see Toho continue the -1 saga with director Takashi Yamazaki rather than reboot and do a brand new continuity again. Even if they're going to start over, do a brand new cinematic universe, I don't want that. We've already got the Monsterverse. That's an ongoing cinematic universe. As fun as those are, I personally would rather see the -1 story continue because I think that movie was on such a higher level than a lot of the other Godzilla films. I would love to see Yamazaki's creative vision continue. And I'd love to see -1 become a trilogy or something like that. That would be what I would love to see. And then when that's done, I would be all for them starting a brand new continuity and spinning off into excuse me, a bigger, broader project. I would love to see that happen with Toho's Godzilla. But I don't want to see another reboot. I don't want to see another solo Godzilla story. I would like to see them evolve Godzilla back into something else. And I'd like to see them challenge themselves to make a very serious Godzilla versus film, the way that we got with GMK. I would love to see something like that spinning out of -1. That would be fantastic. Especially if the Monsterverse is going to continue down the road it's headed, which is the very bold and loud and cartoonish world that it has now become. Oh, you're talking about the pre-sales for this thing? The Godzilla -1 Blu-ray 4K collector's edition thing. I think it's really cool that they are bringing that to the US. This is the Japanese release, so it doesn't have subtitles, which is, that's all right by me. I've seen the movie enough times with subtitles that I don't need them. I'm excited to get the one with subtitles just so that I have that option to watch the film. But I think that's really cool. It is a little bit of a disappointment that the special features don't have... I'm disappointed that the special features don't have subtitles, because if they're gonna be on the disc, I think they should have them. But I think that's really cool that they're releasing it in the US. What obscure kaiju aside from Varan would you want to see again? Why'd you single out Varan like that, Godzilla 93? Varan wouldn't even be one of the ones I'd pick. If I was gonna pick an obscure kaiju, you guys all know I'd pick the Gargantuas. But if I was gonna pick one that appears in a Godzilla movie, Singular Point did a really good job bringing back a lot of classic monsters and updating them and stuff. So that kind of clears up a lot of the ones that would be fun to see. Someone like Anguirus, but he's not very obscure. Baragon would be interesting to see just because, especially if they give him his Showa, his Frankenstein abilities of like the heat beam and stuff. That could be interesting. Trying to think of obscure monsters that I'd be excited to see back. Dogora would be cool. I guess he's technically a Godzilla monster because he appears in Monster Planet. Yeah, stuff like that. But I think it's funny that you singled out Varan for some reason. Our buddy D-Man. Hey, when can you pick up a Godzilla tune? On piano? When can I pick up a Godzilla tune? I don't entirely understand the question, but if you're asking like how long it takes to learn the songs, it depends on the song. Senjukai asks, "Hey D-Man, how do you feel about the news of Toho announcing new rules for Godzilla, and should we be worried?" That's a good question. I'll switch over. We're going minus. Oh, we went from 0 to minus. What is the audio playing behind me? It says there's audio playing behind me. You guys will have to let me know what that is. Is it music? Is it super loud? I don't know. I actually don't know what it is. What is the audio playing underneath me? I think it's me playing Godzilla theme on piano. Toho's new rules are not new. Toho's rules about Godzilla, those have existed for a long time, and they can be broken. We already know that. Toho has had these rules for a long time. I don't know why people are making out like, oh my god, there's this brand new game-changing thing, Godzilla can't eat people. Name one time he ever has. Name one Godzilla movie where he's ever eaten people. He's never done it. He just never has. So that doesn't change anything. Godzilla also can't die. Well, great. You know, that rule existed in 1998 and he still got murdered on that bridge. So the rules, I think, exist more so to try and keep Godzilla, Toho's portrayal of Godzilla intact and to be a guidelines. That's not to say that they are unbreakable. Specifically, if you're Roland Emmerich and you just break them anyways, then they can be broken. That is just to say that that's what they're kind of a guideline for Godzilla, but they're also not new. It's nothing new that Godzilla doesn't eat, and that Godzilla doesn't die. And Godzilla's been defeated in many movies where that rule has existed, like GMK and -1, where I would say in both cases he does die, and then he just gets resurrected at the end, which is fine, because it kind of goes to the cycle of Godzilla will always be back in one form or another. And plus, it's more so, the rule about Godzilla dying more so exists to say that there should always be a Godzilla within the world. So I think you could kill off like Monsterverse's Godzilla. I think he could die as long as another Godzilla would appear to take his place. I think that could I think that possibly could happen. Like we saw that in Godzilla vs. Destroya as well. What is your opinion on the greatest Godzilla design? My personal favorite Godzilla design is the -1 design. I think that they nailed it. The bigger surprise, the Godzilla -1 box office or GXK box office, I would say the -1 box office I found to be more surprising. I was amazed at how strong the legs that movie had to stand on were. I was wondering if Toho is going to do a -1 sequel or go with another reboot. From what I've heard, the rumblings online is that it'll probably be another reboot. Oh, thank you, Godzilla 154. I hope the move goes well, too. Frank, that sounds awesome, man. Do you have pictures of your Godzilla suit or of your Toku scale wear? Yeah, your full Godzilla suit. Do you have pictures of that thing? I'd love to see it. You should tweet those at me. I'd love to see that. I saw that Haya teased a Godzilla 2001. The funny thing is, I still don't have any Haya figures. I ordered the Shimo. I pre-ordered the Shimo, but I still don't have any. I would love to get a Haya Muto. Those things looked fantastic, but I can't really afford to buy stuff like those Ultraman figures I got. The only reason I got them is because I kind of had well, I got the SH Figure Arts Ultraman Rising because it was so cheap at the store, and I couldn't pass up on that. And then the Shin Ultraman I got because I got a new credit card and I had incentive to buy, to make a quick purchase with it, to make sure the credit card was working well. There used to be a girl that was in the Navy. Anyone heard from her? I'm assuming you're talking about Alyssa, and I think she just popped back up. I mean, she hasn't gone anywhere. She's still online. She's just not doing the Godzilla stuff anymore. She's writing books now, which is cool. What are you hoping to see in the next Monsterverse movie? Do you hope to see returning characters from GXK, or new characters, or what are your hopes for Suko or Shimo to return? My thought on where the next Godzilla film is going to go, this isn't what I would like to see, but this is what I would expect to see, is that because Wingard is not returning, I would expect the cast isn't going to return either. I would expect that the cast is tied to Wingard, so if Wingard returns, I have a feeling the cast will return, but until he does, we're going to get a new cast. So I'm hoping to go back to the King of the Monsters era, to get some King of the Monsters characters, to get that version of Monarch re-brought into the fold, and I'd like to see the continuity start to shape up, because I personally think that is the Monsterverse's biggest issue, is that it's supposed to be a cinematic universe of interconnected movies, and nobody seems to have watched any of them. And so there's at times where the Monsterverse steps all over its own feet. And so I'd like to see them get a little bit more in line, but I would expect that Suko and Shimo will return just because they were such prominent characters and they are kaiju, so I would expect those guys will be back. Although I would kind of think that it's up to the new director on if he's going to want to feature them, or if they'll just be kind of cameos in Hollow Earth. Will you ever decide to review the IDW trilogy, King of the Monsters, Godzilla Ongoing, and Godzilla Rulers of Earth? I don't know about comic books, maybe someday. But comics is just, it's really hard to review comics because it's hard to get visuals to show for them. I have to get digital copies of the comics, and then it takes a lot of time to do those. I would love to see Rulers of Earth adapted into an anime. That would be wonderful. Do you think Legendary should do another Godzilla Kong team-up movie, or should the next movie go back to doing solo movies? Personally, I would like to see them go back to solo movies, but they are going to be in the next movie together. Or at least when Wingard was involved, they were going to be. And from what I have heard from behind the scenes, they are still going to be. Are they going to have that anime convention thing that you went to a couple of years back? Are they going to have it again? Kaiju Artist Anime Matsuri is actually happening right at the start of August. I don't know if I will be back. I would really, really love to go. That convention means a whole lot to me. I've been posting tons and tons about it, and it's been exciting to share my adventures there. I'm going to be sharing my 2023 adventures here really soon. I really, really hope I get to go. However, I haven't heard from them, so I'm not sure. I think one thing that could help is, you know, watch the videos I've posted on Anime Matsuri. Tweet about those videos. That would be the biggest thing. If you tweet about those videos, if you tag Anime Matsuri and let them know what your favorite part of those videos are, things like that, that's going to be a really good way to kind of make sure that I could potentially go back. But I'm at the moment, I'm not sure. I'm really hoping and expecting to. Last year, I was told I would be back, but I haven't gotten confirmation on what my travel plans are for this year, so I don't know. As far as I'm concerned, I am going because I was told straight up multiple times that I was going, and I've been planning to go for over a year now. And so if I'm not going, that's going to be a little devastating, but I don't have confirmation on my trip plans. But yeah, the best thing you could do is to tweet, tag Anime Matsuri, your favorite thing about my coverage, your favorite video I've made about Anime Matsuri, your favorite moment from one of my videos, or just your favorite thing about me going. Stuff like that. That's a good way to make sure that I could go again. I want to see a new Toho Mothra movie, or like Toho Mothra in general again, especially with Ifukube's score. I would love to see Mothra return with some Ifukube score. Yeah, I would really, really love to see a Mothra return, especially if they go full board fantasy like they did in 1961. I would love to see a reboot of Mothra that is very similar to the tone and style of that 61 movie. I think the Rebirth movies are a little too odd and a little too kiddie. I would like to see them go a little more mature and fantastical like they did in that 1961 film. Play into the adventure side of it. That's what I'd love to see. And I agree, Godzilla, Kong, and Kaiju News. I hope we get to see some -1 sequels as well. I'm gonna skip down in the chat just because I'm falling so freaking far behind. My apologies, guys. Yeah, I'm trying to catch up. Childish asks, when are we getting the Gamera Rebirth review? I don't know. Nice, I spilled water all over myself. I don't know when we're gonna get the Rebirth reviews. Here's what I'm thinking of doing. God, I'm okay. I skipped quite a far ahead, so hopefully I can catch up here. Here's what I'm thinking of doing is because there was a new YouTube algorithm that hit in at the end of April into May that like completely destroyed my channel's ecosystem. So one thing I'm thinking of doing is going the Brandon Tanold route, kind of revising the Patreon, which I already am planning to do anyways, just because I need to find a way to make it more... I mean, I've been trying really hard lately to post a ton of early access on Patreon, so that's been nice. At least I've gotten a lot of that out. I need to get back on that Discord community. And then I'm thinking of revamping kind of the way I'm approaching the Patreon. I've got some videos for Saturn Dusk that I'm working on. And I've got some videos for Acno that I'm working on, so I need to get those out, and then I think I'm gonna make some Patreon incentives. So like if we hit X amount of dollars per month, then we can do Gamera, because at the moment I can already not really afford the way my channel's headed, so I'm gonna go back to doing the news and updates, which means I don't get to do the stuff that I want to do, which would be stuff like Gamera Rebirth. So that's gonna have to be kind of how I have to restructure all of that. Yeah. I personally hope the next Godzilla movie will be a movie with no humans at all. A lot of people feel that way. I personally feel so the opposite. Should I get the Figure Arts Ultraman Rising from Walmart? I would recommend it, Kaiju fan. I have a review of it. If you want to check out my review, I would highly recommend checking out my review. But I would recommend the figure. Never lose your nerd. Thank you so much for the super chat. He says, so close to 100K, nice to see, and deserved many more. And deserve many more. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the kind words. I don't know when we'll hit 100, but I'm excited. I'm excited to keep it going. Who's the next Monsterverse villain? Destroya, Biollante, Space Godzilla, or Gigan? I don't know. I do know that they are looking into trying to get some Toho monsters. I don't know who they're going to get or if they're going to get anybody, but I do know that Wingard wanted to bring some Toho guys in, so maybe we could see that. I don't know. I know the turtle needs some love. I'd love to see Gamera back. I'd love to talk more about Gamera. The channel took such a hit that my plan was actually for, which obviously got messed up because I had big personal life events happen in May, but my plan was for immediately after Monsterverse May to jump into Godzilla, finishing off Godzilla's Singular Point, and then moving through the gambit of Ultraman 66 and Gamma Rebirth, but I didn't get to do that because the channel's taken such a hit that I've kind of had to be, I'm kind of scrambling to try and figure out a new path forward. And then at the moment, Anime Matsuri is my primary focus because the next convention's coming up, and again, I am really hoping that I get to go. So I'm trying to get my coverage out before I go out there. Your live streaming skills have degraded. Used to be on top in 2016. No, I did not. I was never able to keep up with the chat, even back in the day. I've always been bad at this. I just never streamed enough to become good at it. In the next Monsterverse movie, I hope we get to see a Toho monster we haven't seen before. That would be nice. But I personally would like to see Rodan back. I want to see Rodan back very badly. If the next Godzilla movie focuses on Godzilla, do you think they should introduce the son of Godzilla? We can focus on Kong. Yeah, I don't feel the need to get a son of Godzilla introduced into the Monsterverse unless they're gonna pass the torch from Godzilla to the son of Godzilla. I don't see the need to introduce a son of Godzilla. I think that works better when you have a Godzilla with a much shorter lifespan. One of my biggest issues with the Monsterverse Godzilla is that the guy lives permanently, and I think that's really boring, and it makes Godzilla really meaningless because everything happening within these Monsterverse movies, you know, this is like in the Monsterverse, they have like a 20-year time span. Everything that happens within that 20-year time span, that's like a blip on Godzilla's millions of year old lifespan. He's not even noticing the time go by. I think it really makes Godzilla a very boring character. One of the things that I loved the most about the Heisei Godzilla was that he did have such a finite time on the planet, and it made his life feel way more meaningful as a result. Every battle he's in means way more. And then when he dies, it means something because the guy didn't get to live that long. And then when he passes the torch on to Junior, it's kind of the same. You know, if another Godzilla isn't born, there's kind of this tragic undertone to the fact that Godzilla will be done and gone. I don't know. I don't like the Monsterverse Godzilla's lifespan being as long as it is. Oh, thank you very much, Saturn Dusk, for the super chat. I really appreciate that. TJ versus the Ghidorah Bros dance battle. Who do I have? TJ. I think TJ has more swagger than any of the Ghidorah brothers. I like that question, though. I think TJ would probably outdance them. I agree. I agree that fans should be asking for a better human story. The humans definitely need more to do in those Monsterverse movies. Something I'd like to see you talk about is Godzilla film soundtracks, like the anime trilogy's OST. I've talked a little bit about the Godzilla soundtracks over the years, and when I review Godzilla movies, I do discuss each Godzilla film's soundtrack. The reason I don't do more videos talking about the soundtracks is because they just don't do very well. Those videos don't get lots of views, so I don't really prioritize those. Like, I really wanted to do more deep dives into -1's music and more deep dives into the Godzilla Kong soundtrack, but those videos just don't do very well, so I can't really prioritize that. Do you have any Haya figures to review? I do not, Michael. I have none. I can't really afford them, so I haven't gotten any. Yeah, it's been really slow. Yeah, I gotta get on that Discord way more. I tried to do a boost for the Discord, one of those Discord boost things. I'm so out of touch. I don't really know what they do, a server boost. I tried to set one of those up like a couple days ago, and then I was gonna come back to the, be a lot more active on that Discord, come back to it with, a bunch of stuff with the server boost and stuff. I couldn't get it to work. I tried to get I had a free trial for it, and I just could not get it to link up. So I don't get to. I'd really love to have Hedorah as the villain in the next Godzilla film. So Godzilla could share his villains with Kong. Yeah, I think it could be cool if Kong and Godzilla team up against more Toho monsters. One of my favorite things about GVK was seeing King Kong fight Mecha Godzilla. It was such a surreal thing. It's so weird that Kong has officially taken on Mecha Godzilla essentially in a 1v1. And I'd love to see more stuff like that. I would love to see Kong take on a Hedorah or whatever. That'd be really cool. I was not able to make it to G-Fest, Kaiju Artist. I didn't go to G-Fest. I haven't been since 2019. And I don't plan to go anytime soon. I just can't afford it. It's not a trip that I save up for. G-Fest was a great time, but maybe this is a little pessimistic of me to say, but I feel like in some ways it's not what it was originally. Like, I think G-Fest was this kind of mythical fan event. And from what I've heard online, that 2019 convention kind of was the end of that era. And then following, I think that a lot of people behind the scenes, there's too much drama behind the scenes. I think that also it kind of became too much of an influencer event. And in some ways it's kind of lost its mythical quality. And although I've heard good things from people who have gone, my friends who used to go to G-Fest kind of stopped going. And they talk about it like that it's kind of lost its charm and that they didn't really love last year's and the year before that. And I've heard people liked this year's, and I don't know. I think in many ways G-Fest kind of maybe has lost a bit of the magic. Not to say that I won't ever find it again, but I don't feel the need to get out there, especially if my friends aren't going to be going. And plus, I have a better time at Anime Matsuri, so I would rather go to that. You ever plan on going to the Godzilla Hotel in Japan? Well, Bossy, I did. I stayed at the Godzilla Hotel in November. I stayed at the Godzilla Hotel, and it was a fantastic time. I was going to post a ton of content about being in Japan, and then I got such a negative, overwhelmingly negative response to me being in Japan. Like, I posted my review of Godzilla -1 from Tokyo, and people were like, oh, D-Man's like out of touch. This is the most out of touch thing he could have done. And like, oh, he's no longer relatable. Like he's become too rich or whatever, which couldn't be further from the truth. But the negative response I got to going to Japan made it so that I really didn't talk about my experience there. I had a wonderful time. I filmed a lot of fun stuff and I never shared any of it because people were so rude to me when I got back that I didn't feel like it was worth it. I felt like it really wasn't worth making videos about my time there because people were so rude about it. And I didn't want people to become even more upset at me for something so silly. So, yeah, I went to the Godzilla Hotel. It was wonderful and I loved being there. And I really, really badly want to get back out there. That's right, the Heisei Godzilla only lived for Godzilla as 11 years, taking into account most of the years. Most of the Heisei films take place the year after they were released. Yes, the Heisei Godzilla is a baby. That guy lives for about a decade and then he dies. He lives from like 1984 to like 1996 and then he burns up and explodes. Which is one of my favorite things about him, is that his life meant something. Even the Showa era Godzilla is only 20 years old. He was born around the 1955 period, and then 1975 is his last appearance. I guess he lives to 1999, canonically, we know, because of Destroy All Monsters. So he's a little older by that time, but that is something cool. Could you talk about Godzilla Singular Point Season 2? Well, Sammy, there is no Season 2. I've asked people about it, I've asked people in the know, I've asked people who work on Godzilla films about it, and everything I've heard has been very grim. Everything I've heard has been essentially that we're probably not gonna ever get a Season 2. How many times have you seen Ultraman Rising so far? I've watched the movie about 4 times, I think. 4 or 5 times. Bernie is your least favorite Godzilla character? That's wild, man. There are so many other characters that are worse than Bernie. Gotcha, Godzilla 154. Well, maybe I'll look back into the server boost thing then. I would love to see Gareth Edwards return, but I'm also, I I don't want him to have a negative experience. So if he was overwhelmed with the first movie, I hope he has a much better time on this Jurassic movie, and I'm very excited to see what he does with the Jurassic films. Those things could use a revamp. Do you think DC should do an animated adaptation of Godzilla vs. Kong versus the Justice League comic, just label it under the Elseworlds? Sure, I would love to see that because I thought that comic was so fun. I loved listening to the Godzilla -1 soundtrack while I'm at work. I love listening to that soundtrack too. It is wonderful. And listening to Resolution always gets me going. It always helps me move if I'm feeling too slow. Next Kong solo movie, give us what we want. Get him to finally go toe-to-toe with Ebirah. That would be... If they got to finally make that movie, that would be so wonderful. Kong and Mothra taking on Ebirah. What's your ideal Rodan film, and would he be the villain? If I got to do an ideal Rodan solo movie, then yeah, Rodan's going to be the villain, and it would be the -1 of Rodans. It'd be another Rodan solo movie. Ishiro Honda's Rodan is such a wonderful film. It's the first kaiju mystery movie, and it truly is a horror movie, especially for the first 2/3 of it. It is more of a horror movie than Godzilla Raids Again, than Godzilla -1. In my opinion, the first 2/3 of Rodan play out as this wonderful, wonderful horror film, this horror mystery that slowly unravels. I would love to see that tone brought back in a modern Rodan solo movie. It's great. Trekkie, I'm glad that you feel that way. I was very surprised that people were so negative to my trip to Japan. I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense. Claiming that it made me unrelatable. I had saved up for 4 years to be able to afford the trip, and the only reason I was able to make that leap is actually because of our friend Saturn Dusk here helped out with a major Patreon boost. And that gave me the confidence to go. And even then, I barely could afford the 4 days that I was there. So I didn't understand why people were so negative to me being there. But yeah, I felt like people treated me so poorly upon arrival back home from Japan that I really didn't talk about it much. Maybe I will now that it's been about a year. Maybe I'll go back and post all of my adventures and stuff, because it was a super fun time. And I'd love to share some of that, but yeah, I don't know. People were just so negative about it, and I didn't want to play into the negativity. I didn't understand it. Yeah, well, I could say let the angry people be angry, but you know, when you're posting content and people are overwhelmingly negative about it, you can't say it doesn't take a toll. It always does. You know, whenever you see negative comments, those are unfortunately the comments that stick with you the easiest. So yeah, I would love to see a season 2 of Singular Point Flash. That would be what I would love. I just don't think we will. What Godzilla film from each era do you think is the best? Off the top of my dome here, 54. And then if we're going to separate that from the broader Showa-averse, then Mothra vs. Godzilla. So 54, Mothra vs. Godzilla, then Godzilla vs. Biollante, then probably Godzilla x Mecha Godzilla, Godzilla against Mecha Godzilla, and then Godzilla -1. And then if the legendary thing is its own timeline as well, then Godzilla King of the Monsters. Godzilla Kong Kaiju News. I have heard nothing about Legendary owning the rights to Godzilla Jr. I have heard nothing about that. Any advice to someone trying to make a lot of videos on Godzilla? Do it for the love, do it for the passion. The thing that I feel like one thing that I've had an issue with lately is I'm a little Monsterversed out. I'm not enthusiastic any longer about the direction they went, because the lore that had been built in King of the Monsters was so exciting for me that when they moved away from it and there was a massive tonal shift and there's continuity errors up the butt, that struck me such the wrong way that I don't have as much fun engaging with the Monsterverse as I once did, and that is something that I feel like does impact my videos like crazy. It's kind of difficult for me to talk about the Monsterverse without being negative, which is something I don't want to be. I don't want to be negative. I don't want that. Unless I'm doing a review, in which case being critical, I will be critical, but I don't like to be negative. And so one thing that I've been trying as of late is to not do Monsterverse content so that I can be a little more positive and have more fun. And that's going to be the thing that viewers like. You know, people get pissed off at me for having critiques of the Monsterverse films because people don't love to hear negativity all of the time, unless that's your thing. Unless you make your entire personality being Mr. Negative, in which case that's a little bit more lucrative, but it's a little bit more rage bait and hateful, and that's not a community I want to foster, and so that's not something I want to do. Could you do videos on Jurassic Park? Well, I did, Sam. I covered the Gareth announcement, and I'll review the movie when it comes out. I really hope we can get some not very popular Toho kaiju introduced into the Monsterverse, bring them into the spotlight again, such as Varan, Gazora. I don't think you're gonna get any of those guys. If the Monsterverse is gonna license monsters, they're gonna license ones that are gonna pay off. And getting obscure Toho monsters just simply is not going to pay off. Childish, I did hear about the McFarlane Toys doing the Batman vs. Kong figure set. I don't know what it'll be, but I have a feeling it's going to be that Batmech, and that could be very awesome. And hopefully it'll be Kong with the lantern ring. Kong should fight Mecha Kong, just don't call him Mecha Kong. That would be funny. I'd like that, Mecha Kong. Do you think Gamer will make it into the Monsterverse? I don't think so. It's not the same studio. It's not Toho. I don't think Toho would want to approve that. I don't think you would see Godzilla's first ever crossover with Gamera be something that Toho wasn't heavily involved with. I think that'd be strange. If you were to make your own Godzilla trilogy, what would it be about? Well, it'd be a little -1-y. It'd be a little bit more of like What If Godzilla, but it was a little bit more of a horror series. I'd play into a little bit more of the horror elements of Godzilla. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. I had a great time in Japan. It was wonderful. How come you don't do YouTube membership stuff for the channel? Well, Michael, I have the Patreon, and so I feel like memberships is a little redundant. I guess I could open memberships, but I feel if I already have the Patreon, I don't see what the point of doing the memberships would be. It serves the same function, essentially. So I don't know. Do you think Kaiser Ghidorah could fit into the Monsterverse? Sure, why not? It's just another Ghidorah form. It could, sure. As soon as I said I had an issue with something, an ad started playing. What did I have an issue with? I agree that there should be an overarching human villain in the Monsterverse, and I agree that it should be Alan Jonah, even if they need to recast or kill him off and have someone take his spot. That group should come back. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. The Monsterverse, at one point for me, was very exciting to engage with, and then all of the ideas that I found interesting were thrown out the door in favor of cartoons. So it became really hard for me to engage with. I enjoyed Godzilla x Kong when I first saw it, but as it sat and I thought about it, yeah, it doesn't sit with me the same anymore. The Kong stuff is cool, but the rest, Godzilla especially. I completely agree, and people don't like to hear me say that, so I just don't bring it up a lot. Which is fine. It's okay that I don't love every Godzilla movie ever made. A lot of people don't love the animated movies, and I do. So it's okay to not like every movie ever made. And it's not to say that I didn't like GXK, because I actually do like the movie. I do. But I don't like it as much as people want me to like it, which is why I don't talk about it a ton, because it's disappointing. I think I'd rather not disappoint people that I don't love the movie as much as they want, or that I didn't have the same experience with it as they did. So I let the people that enjoy the movie enjoy it, and I don't want to weigh people down or weigh that conversation down. Sin, about your question, how would you make a serious grim Godzilla versus movie in the Godzilla minus one verse? If Godzilla moved violently, wouldn't that rob what made Godzilla special in the film? I don't think so, because it depends. For me, it's all about tone and the way the human characters respond to what's happening. There are serious Godzilla versus movies like GMK, movies like Godzilla vs. Biollante. If the tone is very grounded and very serious, and if the characters take the situation incredibly seriously, that will drive the drama and that will make it work. And Godzilla having violent fighting styles is okay, especially if you go with a little bit more of a literal animalistic interpretation like what we saw with Godzilla Raids Again, hopefully just not as fast paced. Because you can have a very serious kaiju fight. Lots of the King Kong fights are incredibly dramatic and carry a lot of emotional weight. Godzilla, or War of the Gargantuas, again, I know I keep bringing that movie up, but War of the Gargantuas is another movie with an incredibly serious and grim monster fight at the end. It's all about the tone, and it's all about how the characters feel about what's happening. I would love to see the premise of the next -1 movie be, the entire pitch for the film be essentially, how do we make the audience hope that a monster fight doesn't happen? If I felt like -1 was the first Godzilla movie where, in many ways, it was the first Godzilla movie that made me not want to see Godzilla destroy a city. It was the first one where I hoped he wouldn't pull it off. I hoped Godzilla wouldn't do a big destruction because it was going to be devastating for the characters. Now imagine if that was amplified by 2. Now that is an interesting pitch for me. If the premise of the movie is the characters aware that 2 monsters will fight each other if they're in close proximity, desperately trying to keep them out of each other's paths, that's interesting to me. That's dramatic. It's all about how you handle it. The first Camera X Godzilla crossover was the stage play. Oh, I'm well aware. And Battle Line after that. I love that they can fight in Battle Line. And I love that they did the stage play back in the 60s or 70s. That's great. That's great. There's no chance that I think Toho would give up the opportunity to be the ones involved in making the first Godzilla vs. Gamera movie to the Monsterverse. Have you been playing the new Gamera season on Godzilla Battle Line that's happening right now? I play every season on Godzilla Battle Line, although I will say this is probably my least favorite season we've had in quite a while. I find that the new Gamera is very boring to use, and is it Giron? Is that the other guy, the one with the knife head who does the big flips? I find that guy to be way too weak, so I just don't use it. I don't. This has been the first season I haven't loved in quite a while, and I think it's just because the characters are a little boring. I think absolutely, Kaiju Artist. I think absolutely we're going to get another Godzilla anime. I don't know when it'll be. Thank you very much, Saturn Dusk. I really appreciate that. F them haters. I'll gladly take Japan content as Patreon exclusive if you feel like assembling it. I'll simp again when Toho puts out a new one. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I won't make it Patreon exclusive. I'll probably talk about Japan. I definitely want to do my Anime Matsuri content first, especially because there's so much that we did in 2023. 2023 is such a wild year for Anime Matsuri. We did a lot of goofy stuff, and we explored a lot more of the convention that I'm normally used to seeing, so I get to see some very weird stuff and do some very weird stuff, and I'm excited to share that. And plus, I got to work right alongside Shinji Nishikawa, who is an incredible talent and just a wonderful person. And that stuff was so amazing to film with him. So I'm excited to show that all off leading into the new convention. I hope that my videos are successfully building hype. I hope that by posting all the Matsuri videos, people are seeing those and being like, oh my gosh, I want to go. That's the point. I really hope people see those and want to go. And again, if you guys could tweet about it, tweet about Anime Matsuri and tweet about me and your favorite parts of my videos or your favorite videos or wanting me to go or whatever, that will help out in a big way, making sure that they do bring me back. Yeah, I would love to see a rated R Skull Island movie. Yes, I agree. Skull Island would be a wonderful setting for a horror film. Honestly, the Monsterverse is more confusing than the Heisei era, as the Monsterverse has expanded universe, comics, lore, contradict. Okay. Here's a good thing for me to say. Maybe it's a bad thing for me to say. Here, let me switch over to the GXK again. All right. As I talk to people who work on the Monsterverse movies, and let me just say they don't read the comics. They don't. Not all of them. Some of them did. But a lot of the times the comics are not read. They're not thought about too heavily because it's supplementary material, and they kind of view it as a restriction. Like, you don't want to weigh the films and the storytelling potential down for the sake of a comic book, which most people aren't going to read. So comic contradictions are gonna continue to happen. The real thing I have issues with is when the films contradict the films, and that happens more and more and more as they go on. I agree, though. I agree, Godzilla King of Kaiju. I love that the Monsterverse is willing to take risks. I love that they are trying new things. The best part about Godzilla Kong the New Empire is just how much they do and how much they try. And not all of it works, but some of it really, really works. A lot of the stuff they do with Kong, minus the Beast Glove, a lot of that stuff really, really works. And I love that stuff. And I agree. Scar King is wonderful. He really, really does steal the show. And he's such an awesome villain. I loved him. I would also love to see Mark Russell return with Eileen Chen. I completely agree. I felt like those two were being set up for a romance, and then that did not matter because that character didn't return. Do you think Toho will do another Gemstone Godzilla animated short, or have Godzilla fight Mecha Godzilla or something like that? Goji, I talked a bit about that at the start. I do think so. I would completely expect something like that. Kaiju fan, War of the Gargantuas is criminally underrated, and that upsets me. I agree. I completely agree. I think kaiju fans who have seen it talk its praise all day long because it is a wonderful movie, but on the whole, most people haven't watched it, and most people need to because it's a better kaiju movie than most of the Godzilla films, I think. I think it's wonderful. I was gonna do like a Gargantua's kind of, sort of kind of fan film thing I was gonna film today, but then my schedule got shifted and I can no longer film that today. But I'm going to film it at some point, because I have an idea for it that I think is fun. I would love to see Mothra Leo and his villains in the Monsterverse. Sure, that could be new and interesting. That could be fun, because that's, first of all, Mothra, so you can sell tickets with Mothra. But also, it's very different than the stuff we've gotten. I agree. I'd like to see different stuff like that. That'd be cool. I wonder if the scars are natural from -1. What? Oh, you wonder if the scars on the natural form of -1 are actually from Anguirus. I wouldn't expect it. I would not expect that. I actually don't even know what scars... You're talking about the Odo Island version of Godzilla? I don't even know what scars he has. I don't know what scars he has. Mark... I am excited for Monarch Season 2. I'm very excited for Monarch Season 2 because I really liked the groundedness of that story. What other Monsterverse spin-offs do you think we'll get? Well, we're getting 2 television shows, aren't we? One of them is supposed to be more Godzilla-focused. The other one is supposed to be more Kong-focused, I believe. So that could be cool. I think one of them will probably be very Skull Island-oriented, probably set entirely on Skull Island, which, depending on what kind of lore problems that causes, could be very cool. What are your overall thoughts on the Godzilla animated trilogy? Was King Ghidorah a great opponent, or would Space Godzilla be a better one since he was supposed to be in it? Grim, I really like the animated trilogy. I think they're good movies. I don't think they're great. I think they're good movies, and I really like the ideological battles presented in those films, and I like that those movies had something to say. I really appreciated that about them. I rather like those movies, and I love the portrayal of Ghidorah in that film. I think the way Ghidorah is played in The Planet Eater is so amazing. He's like an ethereal cosmic horror being. He's like from a different dimension. He doesn't register on our human equipment. He's like imperceivable. Godzilla can't even interact with him. I thought it was so freaking cool. It made Ghidorah feel truthfully like a universal threat, and I loved it. Imagine if they make a Godzilla -1 sequel in the style of Batman vs. Superman, teasing future monsters constantly and shifting through old and new characters and ending with Godzilla vs. Destroya. Why would you want that? That sounds awful. Out of the Alpha Titans in the Monsterverse, which one do you think would be the easiest to beat in a staring contest? Well, I guess it depends on who you're considering an Alpha Titan. They apparently call Shimo the most beta Titan to ever exist in Alpha. God, I really can't stand the Alpha stuff. It's again another reason I don't talk too much about the Monsterverse. I think it's gone so furry fan fiction at this point. I think it all is so cheesy and silly and bad. I think it's bad. I think the Alpha stuff has gotten really bad. But as far as somebody I could stare into the eyes of, who would I beat in a staring contest? Does Scar King count as an Alpha Titan? I think he'd be pretty easy to bait into blinking because he has too big of an ego. I find Frankenstein vs. Baragon to be much better. That's a good movie too. It's very underrated as well. I think that's a fun one. I really like the tone of that movie a lot, and the music in that one's great. Have you ever realized that the concept art for each Monsterverse film always had this gritty and dark tone and look, but the concept art for GXK is the complete opposite? Yeah, that's not a surprise. I actually think a lot of the concept art for GXK is still kind of gritty and actually still does carry a lot of the weight of the concept art from the previous movies, but they didn't. I tend to feel that the concept art for the Monsterverse films, even in King of the Monsters and stuff, I often tend to feel that King of the Monsters onward, the concept art generally looks a little cooler than the movie does. I don't want to see any more mechs in the Monsterverse. I don't like mechs, and I don't really want to see any more. Mecha Godzilla is the only one. The SH Monster Art Scar King looks awesome. I didn't get it. I can't really afford it, but I would love to get that thing. It looks great, I think. Add Mothra Leo so that I can fix the Mothra lore in the Monsterverse. Brother, I don't know if there's any fixing the lore in the Monsterverse, especially with Mothra. War Era Godzilla has scars on his body and neck, mostly visible on the Bandai figure. The Bandai figure, the one up there, I reviewed that guy. I don't remember that, but yeah, I wasn't really looking for scars on him. I don't know. I think it's just to show that he's aged. I think it's to show that he's been around. I don't think it's to set up a monster that he's going to fight necessarily. I hope they make an album for Ultraman Rising 2, like Spider-Verse. That'd be great. I'm glad to see people like the anime trilogy here. I love those movies. I think that they don't get nearly enough credit just because they don't have monster fights. Void Ghidorah from Planet Eater is easily the scariest incarnation of Ghidorah, and that includes the Monsterverse Ghidorah. Godzilla King of Kaiju, I would completely agree. I stand by that as well. Should Ren Serizawa return? Sure, but he's dead. He's dead. He died. People claim that in the novelization he got possessed by Ghidorah, and that's because you watch people who clickbait you. If you watch channels like Dangerville all day long, you're going to be misinformed about the lore because you're getting clickbaited so often. The novelization most definitely does not say that Ren gets taken over by Ghidorah. What it specifically says is that Ren's consciousness is piloting the Mecha Godzilla body and then gets shut out by an outside presence. That's what it says. Then his body disappears. He didn't necessarily live or die in that novelization, but I'll tell you what, in the movie his head gets electrocuted and then steams. He died in the movie. There's a reason he wasn't back in GXK, and it's because his brain got electrocuted. You know, Kiryu's awesome, but we've already done Mecha Godzilla in the Monsterverse. I don't think we need that again. It's a shame how much the last two Monsterverse movies have dampened my excitement and desire to continue along. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that, man. I'm not going to say I don't feel any of those same feelings, but I'm still excited to see where we go, and I'm really excited to see a new direction for the Monsterverse. Do you think that Batra will make it into the Monsterverse? Not anytime soon. Unless those movies start to do a lot of money, then maybe. Unless there's like a big push to get more Toho monsters from viewers, then maybe. This has been a question I've been wondering for a while now, but how does the Godzilla franchise differ from the Star Wars franchise in terms of how they handle experimental? Is it genuine or not? Experimental. I don't quite understand, Sen. If you could clarify a little more, then I could try and answer that. I think that the biggest difference is that Star Wars is trying to stick to one continuity, whereas Godzilla is free to go in many different directions. I can't tell anybody, I can't answer any lore questions about where Mothra comes from in the New Empire. They don't do a good job explaining it. It just happens. It just happens because it does. So I don't know how to answer that question. They should have kept Godzilla bursting out of his shed skin in the final form. Would have totally 100% saved the movie. Yeah, and that decision alone would have saved the film, for sure. The Planet Eater is so boring. See, that's the difference. Godzilla 93, you're all high octane, and you and I have big differences in terms of the type of Godzilla movie we prefer. You really prefer the more high octane, action packed, turn your brain off ones. I really prefer the ones that you can think and engage with, and that's fine. It's fine that you and I tend to disagree on a lot of our Godzilla takes, and that's totally cool. But I really love those movies. I could see Space Godzilla or Biollante showing up in the Monsterverse, Austin. I could see either one of them showing up, especially with how strongly people online ask for characters like Biollante, Destroya, Gigan, and Space Godzilla. Those are the four that I could see the strongest showing up in the Monsterverse. Those four monsters, I think there is the strongest possibility of them showing up. No, Parrots, Mothra doesn't come from an egg in GVK. She's already full-grown adult, and depending on who you ask, she might even be the mother of Mothra from King of the Monsters, so it couldn't be. I completely agree, Godzilla King of Kaiju. I think the animated films were marketed so horribly for what they actually were that I think, yes, the Godzilla vs. Mecha Godzilla hype for that second movie set this unrealistic standard for what that movie was going to be, that it set it up for major failure, and I do think has reputationally damaged those films forever. Should Toho or Legendary try to do a Godzilla vs. Godzilla idea in the future? I think Toho should absolutely do that. I would love to see that. I would love to see that a lot. Shimo is technically an Alpha Titan. Read the novelization. Godzilla 93. I'm going to say this again. Okay? Listen to me. Alright? Please. All of you guys, please listen to me. The filmmakers don't keep up with the novelizations anymore. Doherty is the only one. The only one. The novelizations are not actually canon. The sooner we can acknowledge the sad truth that the novelizations are not canon, the sooner we can move on and have more productive conversations. They are a side universe. They're a separate, expanded universe for us hardcore nerds, and that's it. Anything said in the novelizations does not matter. That's the ultimate sad reality of it. Are you hyped for the giant Mothra GXK figure? Sure. The Playmates one, that looked really cool. I thought it looked really cool. I'm excited to have a big Mothra. They didn't do a big Mothra for King of the Monsters either, and I would love to see one. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. I don't see the need to adapt something like the Kiryu Saga into an anime, but I would like to see some of those kind of ideas built upon. That'd be cool. I agree, Mark. Those are very good. I think those are very good movies. I think that they are truly the peak of the Millennium era, and in many ways, I think they're the best things to happen since the Showa films until the modern era. And I do love those characters. So maybe I could see the appeal of fleshing that out into an ongoing show, but I like the idea of doing new things, especially in the animated format. Like, I loved the way that Singular Point was so fresh. I'm excited about the new director as well. Yes, I completely agree. I wish that the Monarch Legacy of Monsters team did spend a little bit more time freshening up on their Monsterverse lore. It's 4 movies. It doesn't take that long to watch. No, the egg from King of the Monsters credit is not the same as Godzilla Kong the New Empire, Arthur. I don't think Baggin will come anytime soon. Oh, I see what you're saying, Jukai, about the Raywa era being more experimental. I think it's because the Monsterverse has a bit more of a traditional Showa-styled Godzilla locked down, so Toho feels that they can be a little more experimental with things like Shin Godzilla, Singular Point, the animated trilogy. Those are fresh takes on Godzilla because they already have Godzilla secured. Already Godzilla from... like, the more classic iteration of Godzilla is secured in the Monsterverse, so they don't need to double up on it as much. But notice that once the Monsterverse Godzilla started to get a little more weird and experimental, Toho's response is with -1, a very classic Godzilla going back to the original Godzilla. Are you excited for Alien Romulus? It's been a minute since we've had a really good Alien movie. I love the universe of the Alien movies, and I am excited to step back into that universe. I just hope it's not retreading the first 2 films too much. The trailer seems to have a little too many nostalgic moments replaying out. I hope it is its own thing. One plot point in the Monsterverse dropped that I think kind of funny is Mecha Godzilla was being set up to be built under Skull Island, at least from what I understand. Yes, that is the original intention. A lot of what Michael Dougherty did in the Godzilla King of the Monsters end credits montage was trying to set up those early drafts of Godzilla vs. Kong before they got radically reworked. My favorite era of Godzilla is the Raywa era, despite -1 being super loved by everyone. Everyone kind of ignores Shin Godzilla animated trilogy and Singular Point. I think Shin Godzilla gets its flowers all the time. People love that movie and still talk about it a lot. But I actually think I generally agree. The Raywa era might be my favorite as well. What are your thoughts on the next Monsterverse film's director? Well, he's a fresh green director. I haven't seen any of his work. He hasn't really done a lot. And they do that. They tend to get that because those people are a little cheaper and because new directors are a little easier to tell what to do. I don't know. I'm excited to see where they go. I hope that they don't force him to do Wingard again. I hope that he is allowed to go his own creative direction and that they don't try and out Wingard, because if they wanted that, they could have waited. They could have just waited and stuck around with Adam Wingard. He obviously has other projects that he has to do, and that's why he isn't able to return, but I hope that they are willing to let Grant do his own thing. Sure, I agree that there's a happy medium between action and story. I think that's key to make any movie work. Marcozilla. Yeah, that channel, I don't have the fondest opinions of what they do. There's a lot of things that, there's a lot of things that I could discuss that I've been unhappy with over the past few years, that I won't, but generally speaking, no, I don't think that's worth your time. I hate how everyone uses the novelizations as evidence for stuff when it's simply not connected to the movies. People use the novelizations as evidence for awful theories. Yeah, and not to mention, a movie shouldn't rely on its novelization to fill in gaps. So that is something that frustrates me, is when people try and act like, well, we do have the answers. No, it was explained. No, this is a solid plot. It never is. If you need to rely on the novelization, if you need to say, no, it is, because look at this other thing, then you've already failed. You can't point to outside material to explain away issues with the primary content. That shouldn't be the way it works. So it frustrates me when people act like it's all okay because a book that nobody ever read explained it. It's not okay. You shouldn't rely on a secondary source of media to explain a movie. It's a movie. It stands on its own. It explains itself, and if it doesn't, then it didn't do a good job. But that's not specifically about the Monsterverse. That's about anything. That especially applies to things like Star Wars. It drives me nuts when people try and be like, well, actually, Emperor Palpatine's return is good because they made a TV show after the fact that sets it up. Great. It should have happened first, and it should have been explained in the movie itself. I think the -1 is like the Kiryu saga with the same ideas, and that's why it's my third favorite after those films. It's kind of tied into the themes of trauma, I suppose. And I do agree, those are some of my favorite films as well. I know people don't really like Tokyo SOS. I think that movie kicks a lot of butt. I really love that movie. My biggest fear for the next Monsterverse film is it's going to go all in on the Wingard type films, so you and I have very similar feelings. Like, executives would go, make this, instead of giving Grant more creative control. It's kind of like how I fear that the Guardians movies, well, if they make more Guardians of the Galaxies, those can't really ever be good. Because I think that they're going to try and make them like James Gunn would make them, and if you don't get Gunn to make them, you can't do what another person does as successfully as that person. You know, if that's a person's style, even if for me GXK wasn't what I was hoping for, you couldn't get anybody else but Wingard to do that as effectively as he did it. So that is my concern as well. Gamera Rebirth wasn't that good in my opinion. It was just Gamera fighting one monster after another each episode. They didn't have interesting origins like the characters in the 1998 Godzilla anime. I haven't seen it yet, so I actually can't say. I haven't seen it. I don't think we're going to get a Skull Island Season 2. If we were going to get that, we would have heard about it by now. I think it's gone. What? Have you ever seen that video of Godzilla throwing a truck at an anime girl? I have not. When, if ever, do you think Toho will go through with the Godzilla vs. Godzilla movie? I don't know. I would love that to be the next step after -1, but I don't know. What's the best non-kaiju related movie you've seen this year, or top 5 if they come to you that quick? Ooh. What movies have come out this year? My favorite movie of the year, if I'm not counting minus color, is Ultraman Rising. What movies came out this year? I haven't seen a lot of movies this year. This year's been kind of slow on films. Kingdom was good. Kingdom of Planet of the Apes was good. I did think that movie was a little... It fell into similar category of being two movies at once, and so it felt like it was a little bit stepping on its own toes at times, in my opinion. The same issue I had with GVK, and the same issue I had with the other Empire movie, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. I felt like all three of those movies stepped on their own toes, trying to do too much at once. But this is a very slow year for movies. I'm looking through the list of movies that have released this year, and I'm not really seeing any. So I would say Ultraman Rising, and then Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Oof. Yeah, I'm looking through movies, man. I have seen like no movies this year. I've seen a lot of movies in theaters this year, but it's been like re-releases. I've watched a lot of re-releases. I haven't seen a lot of new releases. Yeah. Kingdom. That'd be the one. For April Fools, I should remake the face in the tail, but this time say he does have a face in the tail. I like that idea. Well, see, and that's fine, Godzilla 93. There's no issue with that, man. There's no issue with you liking the novelizations. I also like the novelizations. I just think that they cannot be claimed to be canon when the filmmakers don't pay attention to them. The Greg Keyes tries really hard to tie into the movies, and Greg Keyes tries really hard to tie into upcoming movies. So I will tell you this. Greg Keyes put things into the Godzilla Kong New Empire novelization that were supposed to help set up for where Wingard was heading. Now that Wingard is gone, those setups are not really probably going to materialize. But I will say, Greg Keyes did try to tie into the next movie. There are things in there that literally were trying to directly set up for where the next film was going. I don't think that's going to happen, though. But that's because Greg Keyes is aware. He's aware of what's coming next, or at least he's trying to be aware of what the plan is. And he can't always be prepared because they change so much. So his material will always get trampled over. But I really like his writing, and I really like the books. Yeah, Hyperstar, I would say that Miana and Mayana's subplot with Haruo in The Planet Eater took me off guard big time. Watch my review of the movie. I was deeply uncomfortable with all of that. Austin, Godzilla vs. Destroy is a fantastic movie. I think that for a lot of the same reasons you said. I love the thematic tie-in to the original film. Yeah, I would expect that Legacy of Monsters Season 2 will be a little bit more into the development of Mecha Godzilla, which could be very cool. Yeah, Skull Island show definitely made absolutely no attempt to tie into the lore at all. And Godzilla King of Kaiju, agreed. I liked that G-Force returns in all of the Heisei films. I like that Mickey is in all of them except 84, and it gave a really cool human tether for those movies that the Monsterverse desperately needs. I think Toho will fill the gap, and I don't think we're gonna have to wait. Yeah, I think that I do think that they're gonna try and get that Monsterverse movie out ASAP. What did they say? 2027? I think they're gonna hit that date. And I would expect Toho to do something first. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes is a very good movie. I really liked it. I did feel like it tried to do a little too much, but I really liked it. Maybe someday I'll review unmade Godzilla films. That's something I need to do more research into. Do you prefer the novelizations or movies? I prefer the movies. If, you know, monsters are a visual type of story, I think that they work better in a visual medium. I did see those Godzilla animated fan films that came out alongside the animated trilogies, and I thought those things were great. I think that those things did if those things were canon, would have done a lot to save those movies' reputations in the fan base. And the animator did an incredible job with them. Childish Landino, I don't think they will, but I think that possibility is higher than it should be. Astronomically higher than it should be. But I don't think it will happen at the moment. So we have a guy who is, so at least Godzilla King of Kaiju remembers my Godzilla anime trilogy reviews. Yeah, I forgot about that. Those were fun. I do think that these movies would benefit from having a Kevin Feige overseeing where they're headed. Absolutely. If there's one thing you think GBK should have kept, what do you think it should have been? For me, I'd say the Orca. I couldn't agree more. I think the Orca being involved would have been a big thing because it would have helped make it feel like an actual extension of the universe at hand rather than a sort of reboot. That technology, the Orca technology existing and then not being mentioned since then, is so wild to me. Where did it go? Yeah, I agree. Godzilla 154, I completely agree. I would like to see more returning characters. That Hey Toho video, I won't say what it's about. I will say whatever you think it's about, whatever you think it's about. It isn't about what you think it's about, and you're not going to be prepared for what it actually is. I wasn't even prepared for what it actually was when I saw it. Togura Godzilla, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that, man. Would be great to see if a Godzilla movie were Godzilla becoming John Wick or the 80s and 90s type action hero and kick kaiju's butts and take names, like Godzilla Final Wars. Godzilla Final Wars. I can, yeah, I kind of think that's what the New Empire was. Like, the New Empire has Godzilla jumping around through hypergravity, swatting apes out of the air. That's kind of what that movie already was. It already, in a way, we already became that hyper-stylized Godzilla is this action hero, very 80s, 90s styled, exaggerated action hero. I think that was Wingard's purpose. I think that's what he was trying to do, and personally I think he nailed that very well. I think he got what he was going for with that. What Monsterverse TV show do you prefer, Skull Island or Monarch? I prefer Monarch. Austin, I agree. I also would have liked to say, I mean, I personally don't think Ford Brody or any of the Brody's stories really made sense to continue over from the 2014 Godzilla film, but I do think that King of the Monsters maybe did stray a little too far away from the 2014 world at times. I mean, Parrots, that's kind of what the movies are, so I don't see a need for a show like that. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised because Adam Wingard said one of his first things he was going to do was get a render of Godzilla and Kong smooching for if he got to come back after GVK, and I haven't seen that render yet, so what the hell? I know she did. I know she said that. Minami Hamabe said that she expects if a Godzilla -1 sequel is made that her character will mutate and fight Godzilla. That's not the route I would go with that, that's for sure. I think that kind of in a way ruins the ending of the first movie, but I could see them doing something like that. You ain't never seeing Mecha Kong again, my friend. All right. We've been going for an hour and a half here, so I think I am gonna wrap it up and take off here. I do got a lot to do today. I'm building some miniatures for a movie I'm working on, so I've got to take off. So I appreciate all of the support, and I had a fun time with you guys. I hope to do more of these things more often. Like I said, I'm just so freaking busy lately that I don't know when or if I'll get time to, but I would love to do more stuff like this. So thank you guys all for tuning in. I really do appreciate it, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I cannot wait to talk to you guys again. All right. And remember, I would really appreciate if you would tweet out your favorite anime Matsuri moments, because it would help me a lot. Okay. All right. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all the people who support the Patreon. Thank you to all the super chatters. Thank you to my repeat patrons like Godzilla154 and Saturn Dusk. Thank you to my repeat viewers like Childish, Godzilla93. And again, thank you to all the people who donated, support the super chat, and everything. I really appreciate it. I will see you all next time for the next one.